Happy National Foam Rolling Day, and let's get ready to start. When I look at foam rolling, guys, the first thing that I want to think about is starting from the ground up. I think of my body like a tree. I want to take care of the roots. If I take care of the roots first, it's going to take care of everything else. We always want to roll towards our midline or towards our heart so that we can take all of the different liquids and fluids in our body and help push it towards that big pump, which is our heart. And so we're going to do that today. So the first thing that we're going to do is take your roller. Why I like the grit is because it has a couple different grip variations or texture. I'm going to pick on the pointed texture right now, and I'm going to put my foot on it, and I'm just going to drive down. So everybody go ahead and do this with me. Go ahead and put some overpressure on it. And then we're going to do a technique. Today we're going to do a little more than foam rolling. We're going to add some dynamic stretch techniques to it. We can call it a mobility combination if you'd like, but it's going to look like this. We're going to point the toe and then stretch it through. Point the toe, stretch my calf. Point your toe, stretch your calf. Point your toe, stretch your calf. This range of motion on the bottom of your foot is great for lower compartment neuropathy. A couple of you asked about that before. And stretch. Other foot. Start on the points. Get some overpressure. Once I feel good about that, I'm going to point that toe. Keep my body nice and straight for a stretch. Point that toe, stretch. I'm getting ankle mobility and range of motion. At the same time, stretching all that tissue in the lower compartment of my foot. Through here, I can also fan out my toes, which is a great technique to opening up the fascia on the bottom of that foot. So after my feet are adequately feeling good, what I'm going to do is start right into my calf. So a couple different techniques. Again, I want you to start right at your heel. You can overpressure it by crossing your leg. You can add more pressure by elevating your hips, or you can simply bend your knee and piston it in like this, driving back and forth. So let's go ahead and pick one of those techniques and start maybe 2 inches back, 1 inch down. 2 inches back, 1 inch down. Now at some point, usually where these three muscles come together, Achilles tendon, gastroc, and soleus, you're going to find a lot of tightness. That's known as a trigger point. What we want to do is keep it on it until that tension dissipates. We're going to experience some immediate release. And then once we find that, woo! So I found a really painful area here. So what I'm going to do now while I'm on it is I'm going to move my foot in circles and back and forth, getting that tissue to shear or to help unstick what's sticking in that area. And I can walk it back through. Now, as you're rolling your right leg or your left leg, what I want you to pay attention to is you have a linear area, but then you have a medial part of your calf. You can hit that medial part by everting or turning your foot in and hitting that middle part. The same thing is the lateral aspect of your lower leg. You can do that as well. Hit the peroneal muscles. So one of the reasons it's important here is because not everybody runs flat-footed. A lot of people run pronated or supinated. And so it's just a smart way of hitting all the different trigger points that are going to build up around that leg. So let's get the other one in now. So other foot. I'm going to go over pressure and lift my hips because that's my preference. And once I find that sticking zone, I'm going to span or do some cross friction massage to see if I can alleviate it. If you're bruised, don't roll over a bruise. You can put very little pressure just to get over it. But once you're there, stay on it. Walk it all the way through just before you hit the back of your knee. We normally don't want to attack the back of our knee because there's so much going on there, that popliteal muscle, A lot of times we have cysts that develop back there. We want to stay away from that area, just as a rule of thumb. Calf now done. Let's move on to anterior tibialis, or as my friend Megan Rapino calls her shin meat. So we're going to go ahead and put your anterior tibialis right on there and begin to roll. We can start at our foot and roll to our knee if we'd like. It's really painful. This is kind of a pigeon position. Well, really painful for me. This is a kind of a modified pigeon like in yoga as we walk it through. Once I find a spot, I can move my foot back and forth and try and create range of motion in there. Your anterior tibialis is responsible for lifting your toes. So if you're walking a lot or walking up hills or running or doing stairs, it's usually pretty fiery and you gotta really walk through it. Also, all of these little muscles through here, your peroneal muscles that have the responsibility of toe movement and lateral knee stabilization, it's important that you get those loosened and unstuck. So let's move to the other side. I've seen some people do both anterior tibs at the same time. In this position here, that's fine as well. I'm gonna stick with just one side. Whew. Really use your breath to breathe through each roll. Now here's something interesting. I'm rolling my anterior tib and it's causing a cramp in my arch of that same foot. So everything's connected. So there's a little bit of spasming going on here because of something I'm activating here. That tells me to spend a little bit more time on this side. I might even want to use a technique where I sit, put some overpressure, and use my hand to rock it back and forth. At the same time, I can use my hand to manipulate my foot back and forth. So again, foam rolling can be used as a tuning fork to really understand your body, because this is going to help bring awareness and proprioception to areas of your body to help you simply move better, okay? So from there, now what I want to pick on is my hamstrings. So I'm going to go ahead and put this behind my knee, a little bit up. I'm going to elevate and I'm going to slowly walk through. Now again, I have 3 zones here. I'm in the middle zone, but I also have a little bit of a lateral zone on my hamstring, and I have a medial zone. So make sure that we're tracking all 3 zones, okay? All 3 pathways as we move up and down our leg. Once you find an area, you can stay right on that area. Now I'll show you a technique I like to use. So we've rolled all the way up to the hip. So now I'm still on my hamstring, right before my glute. One thing we can do as I keep my back straight, I'm going to reach to my toe and roll. Reset and roll. Everybody try this. Right on your hamstring, reset and roll. You can really, when you stretch or lengthen that tissue, you can get a little bit deeper. And I feel like this helps in shearing. Shearing is when the tissue is sliding past one another. I can help with that slide and glide as I do this because I'm compressing tissue and moving underlying tissue. Okay, other leg. I'm going to turn quite a bit just so that you can see the technique with the roller, okay? Again, hit middle, lateral hamstring, and then medial hamstring. Or spanning is back and forth, or sometimes we'll call it cross friction massage. Once we're here, let's employ that same technique. Hamstring to glute tie-in, and let's pull and pull. Woo, love it. Make sure you're keeping a nice flat back, proud chest as you bring it right through. trying to release that hamstring. If you sit a lot, guys, this is an awesome thing to do. Directly after this, I go ahead and I put the roller right between my legs. I grab the roller and I stretch my hamstrings. I'm gonna do that 5 times. If I want, I can bring this overhead. 2, 3, 4, last one, and 5. Good. From this position, I'm going to get right into my quad. So quad on, right below. Now I'm going to flex my leg and then roll a little bit. Flex and roll. Flex and roll. This one we're going to hit inner thigh and outer thigh separate, so we don't have to worry about that medial and lateral aspect here. Woo! Once you find the garbage though, flex. If you want to do what I call a windshield wiper, you can. Find that area and do a little windshield wiper. Everybody try that once you find a spot. The other thing you can do here is, as you've gotten it all the way through to your hip flexor, so now I'm on my hip flexor, I can take that leg up and I'm gonna keep my left hand or my left elbow planted, and I'm gonna reach over and I'm gonna stretch a little bit more. Now this is an advanced technique. Don't do it if you can't safely grab and stretch, because you normally don't want to have the muscle turned on or stretched when you're trying to ask it to relax. But you can do a little bit extra there. Okay, other leg. Start down here at my knee. Every couple inches, I'm going to flex that knee. Every couple inches, flex the knee. Really working out those big quadricep muscles. Very nice. All the way through hip flexor. What do we do when we get through hip flexor? Yep, if we want, go ahead and grab and then walk through. Good. From there, a lot of times we immediately look at lateral quad and we think IT band. And it's still called an IT band roll, that's fine. But what I want you to realize is that your IT band is the material of a car tire. You cannot affect it with a foam roller. But what you can do is help release it or decrease the tension by massaging the glute and the hip. So that's the first thing that we're gonna do. So we wanna hit the TFL and the glute minimus and medius first. So I'll start with the glute. We're gonna start with the glute by sitting on the roller in kind of this leaned over position. Since I'm on my left hip, I'm gonna take my left leg and cross it over my right knee. And now I'm gonna slowly start releasing or massage rolling my glute. Now I've seen people move their knee back and forth, bring their foot in. All these different options and variations are awesome. I've even seen people get nice and low on their elbow and really start focusing right around their belt line and their sacrum. Now, this is a really strong roller. And so you can even start using the edge of this roller to see if you can get a little bit more targeted or deep tissue around your sacrum and tailbone using the edge of your roller. But this is plenty for me for right now. So from there, on my left side, I'm gonna drop this and I'm gonna put this roller right between my hip bone and my thigh bone, okay? Think about that again. Your hip bone, your ASIS, and your thigh bone, your greater trochanter. There's a little bit of space in there. And now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of rock back and forth. That's your TFL. It's a drink you can buy at Starbucks called your tensor fascia latte. Just kidding, it's a terrible joke. Tensor fascia latte. But once that's released, that's gonna be one of the responsible or primary tie-ins for your IT band. So after that, then I'm gonna roll IT, which is really just me rolling lateral quad. Lateral quad is an incredibly greedy muscle. I can do it in 3 ways. The first way is the most advanced way. This is stack. This is really painful. I can do the front of it by putting my opposite leg in front of my body and going belly button kind of facing the floor. Or I can do the lateral by putting my foot in back and raising my belly button up a little bit. So let's go ahead and try those 2 techniques with those points on the ground. And if you're a machine and this is not affecting you, then you can do this one here with your feet stacked, which I really cannot do because I do a lot of weightlifting in my legs and they are sore. Walk it all the way through that knee. Good. All right, spend about 5 more seconds here. Reset. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So hip on. Now I'm focusing on my right hip. So I'm gonna take my right foot and place it over my left knee. And I can use this to articulate it. Really trying to find those points of tension or those trigger points. If I want to get a little lower, I can go on my elbow. Woo. Find a little bit more pressure here. Make sure you're breathing really well. Glutes are super important. After you hit that hamstring tie-in to that glute tie-in, it'll alleviate stress on your knee, the back of your knee. It'll alleviate stress on your low back. Okay, so from there, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna hit that TFL. So go ahead. What are the 2 bones? ASIS or hip bone, greater trochanter or thigh bone. And then I just kind of rock or cross-friction massage that little TFL back and forth. The reason that gets sore is because it's the primary rotator of your femur, this big bone here. Most athletes, soccer players, runners, anyone who rotates that knee a lot, it gets really, really, really fired up. So once I'm done there, now I can begin walking it through. Again, my foot in front, I can lean and hit the front part of that IT and lateral quad. You can still call it an IT band, even though we know in our heads that we're not really rolling the IT. We're rolling on it, but we're not really creating any sort of change. Woo. I got some soreness there, so I can move my foot up and down, or I can rotate back and forth. Oh, playing with pressure as I continue to walk it down my leg. And like I said, when you talk about a tuning fork, pay attention from one side to the next. I have a lot more tension on my right leg than I do my left. So just become aware of that. You can start making adjustments and changes. Okay, so a few more seconds on that side. Oh my gosh, so much alleviation there. Woo! Okay, so from there I want to start picking on my lower back. One of the primary postural muscles of the low back is your Quadratus Lumborum, or your QL. So go ahead and take your foam roller and place it between that ASIS, or that hip bone, and your rib cage. There's an area of space, and you're just going to breathe and try to melt over it. Once I'm there in a lateral position, I'm going to lean back a little bit. Now I feel a little bit of pressure in my back. That's your QL, okay? Because of the size of the roller and how small that space is on me, I'm not really rolling. I'm just allowing my body to melt into it. Okay, this is a compressive technique more than a rolling massage technique. It's like a massage therapist putting an elbow into you and allowing the muscles to release over that elbow or that tissue to kind of make adjustments over that elbow. There's a couple things that happen when we roll. We're looking at immediate change or immediate tension relief, which we get, but over time we also get a chronic change, a change in tissue, healthy tissue. And it's because anytime we roll on the skin, it's affecting neurotransmitters, and depending on how deep we go, there's different nerve endings and mechanoreceptors, not neurotransmitters, mechanoreceptors that are sending signals to the brain, and the brain then sends signals back telling the body to make these chronic or these lifelong adjustments. So when someone asks, so is this just a quick fix? It is, but you have to do this all the time for it to be a chronic change. Okay, so that's QL on that side. I spent a little bit too much time there, but let's do QL on this side. I love hitting my QL because it's not something that I normally focus on, but once I do it for like maybe 30 to 60 seconds and then release it, meaning I take the pressure off it, it's almost like I can breathe better, like my diaphragm's opened up, my intercostals have opened up, and I'm allowed to have better three-dimensional breathing. So QL. From QL, what we're gonna do is now we're gonna roll our back. We wanna be very cautious about rolling our lumbar spine. So let's start this right below our shoulder blades, or right below, if I were to lift my hips, I don't wanna have tension in my low back, so I don't wanna fall over it. There's a point that's different on everybody because our abdomens are all different lengths. So find the safe spot, interlace your fingers, try to touch your elbows together, and then roll all the way up your spine a couple inches at a time. If it pops or adjusts, no problem. You just saved yourself a little chiropractic appointment for the day. Sorry, chiros, that's not true. So from here, oh, that's a nice little adjustment. Once we have that a couple times, guys, go down as far as you can safely. Take a deep breath in and extend your abdomen over the roller. Exhale, move up one vertebrae. Inhale, one vertebrae up at a time. Begin unzipping that vertebrae. All the way through. All the way to the top of the shoulder blade. From there, now let's look at our back or our lats, our lat tie-in. So we're gonna get in a position like this, where it's kind of buried in my armpit, but behind to where my arm ties in. From here, you're gonna roll and reach. Roll and reach. Woo. Roll and reach. You've never done this before, it can be quite painful, but at the same time, just feel amazing. Some of these roll and reach techniques. Good. I'll do one facing the camera so you can see right where I want it. I'm gonna go here, and that's a roll and a reach. You find a trigger point, which for me is right here. Stretch it out, and then pronate and supinate your hand. Like this. And then continue, roll and reach, palm high. Good. So a couple stretches I like to do after I've worked my back. The first one is gonna be at a 45-degree angle. I'm gonna heel sit and roll. This is a quadruped position. This is a heel sit. So with my right hand, I'm gonna put the roller at 45 degrees, put my left hand on. I'm gonna heel sit by pressing my hips down with my right hand, and then at the same time, I'm gonna elongate my lat here. Reset, heel sit and stretch, or heel sit and roll, heel sit and roll, heel sit and roll. Other side, 45 degrees. I'll do it this way. Heel sit and roll. Heel sit and roll. Heel sit and roll. Or you can do the two-handed one, right? Two-handed is going to be here, quadruped position, and kind of in a child's pose or an extended child's pose to quadruped. Good. Another one we can do here is take this, and just like we did with our QL, we're going to do it on our abdomen now. So just put this almost at your belly button, right above your hip. And all I'm going to do in this position is gently rock my hips back and forth, trying to get my abdomen, transverse abdominis and rectus abdominis to open up. So just let it sink right into your tummy, right into your stomach. You have a muscle way underneath your guts called your psoas. Now, I can't tell you that this is going to directly release your psoas, but it can put pressure on some of the underlying muscle tissues to allow that psoas to have more mobility than before you did this. So don't go saying, hey, I know a great psoas release, but you can say on yourself, wow, that really felt like I'm open now in my hip flexors and my inner abdominal area. So do that a couple times. You'll feel definitely a distinct difference there. Okay, from there, what I want you to do is go ahead and lay this roller vertically. We're gonna put our body on it like this. And now I just want to roll right on your shoulder blades. That one's a little bit too low for me. I'm going to extend my arms up, and I'm just going to move a little bit at a time, trying to massage the muscles surrounding my spine. I'm not going too far, but I'm just hitting that muscle there. That's my thoracic vertebrae. And I'm doing it in a way that's going to create a little bit of mobility, because we all have really tight T-spines, especially those of us who squat, those of us who sit and work at a computer. And then when we go out and try to golf or play tennis or baseball, we're rotating through our lumbar spine and not our T-spine. And our T-spine is what we want to rotate through. So that's an awesome way to stretch, to get a little stretch there. The last one we're going to do today, guys, after our lats and back, we can go ahead and lie this down like a pillow. And put my head on it and create a little bit of overpressure just by pressing in. And I already feel some pressure, some good pressure, because there's a lot of tension in your neck. And I'm going to just slowly rock my head back and forth. And once I rock my head to the right, I'm going to turn my hips to the left. And breathe. And I'm going to carry on that same routine a couple different times. Pausing to where I find some junk and making those adjustments. Oh man, it feels so good. So that is what I call a basic total body foam rolling session. Should take anywhere between 12 to 18 minutes, depending on how much you want to focus on something. You can involve different dynamic stretching combinations with it as a way to add flexibility with foam rolling. But the idea then is to just create great tissue quality through compressive rolling massage. You can pull the fluid out and then allow that fluid to come back in for good oxygen and nutrient transport so that we can then become healthier, which is the whole point of moving better. T-spine stretch is amazing. I'll give you one more T-spine stretch. You ready? Using the roller. Two different ways. One, in the same heel sit position, I'm pushing myself in heel sit and I'm threading the needle. If you don't heel sit, you're just gonna rotate lumbar. If I want to stretch, or if I want to roll my tricep at the same time, I can start at my elbow. Do the other side. A couple, thread the needle. 1, 2, and then elbow for tricep. Woo! Sore triceps. So again, guys, if you have some foam rolling techniques that you want to do, tag hashtag TP Therapy, hashtag National Foam Rolling Day. But it's been my pleasure to bring you a foam rolling session. If you're going to do this anticipatory of a run or working out or something else, you can go through it a little faster. The quickness of foam rolling for less than 30 seconds per muscle group will actually upregulate your nervous system and give you energy. The longer you're on it, the more downregulated you're going to be. One example, someone comes up to you and puts their hand on your neck. Immediately, what do? Fight, flight, or freeze, right? But what if then you recognize them as someone you know and they continue for a minute, 2 minutes? You start melting into their hands. It's the same essence of foam rolling. The longer you do it, the more you downregulate and turn muscles off. But the quicker you do it, the more active you are, the more you're going to do that before competition or activity. Okay, does that make sense? You guys are very welcome. Thank you for joining. If you have any other information, please look at TP Therapy, or I'm at Michael the Trainer with more content. Happy National Foam Rolling Day, and we'll see you.